I loosely relate my expertise to something that they're already talking about? What is my core skill set that I have a practical application around right now in terms of what I do in my business? So for example, for me, I do publicity, right? I get people in the media, entrepreneurs for the most part. For the average person who watches TV and watches the morning news, they don't care about how to get publicity. So I could talk about that and pitch myself that way, but it's not going to take me far. But if I really think about, okay, what is the core skill set that allows me to get people in the media? It's communication skills, it's building rapport, it's building trust, it's creating win-win scenarios, it's connecting the right people. So positioning my skill set and then looking at what kind of everyday situation can I apply it to, or something that is already going on in the news. The same, Chris, for example, for you, the same would be for your expertise around marketing and sales. It could be that there is a story where you can directly speak to that, but maybe you can speak to something like, how do I develop rapport really quickly, which is something that would fall into your area of expertise as well. Make sense? So you would really dig deep and don't just look at the practical applications of how you're delivering results right now or the product that you developed right now. No, what was the core skill set that allowed you to do that? And that will help you step out of your own way and really look at it from a bird's eye view perspective of what are your traits, what are your character traits, what are your skills that would be relatable to an everyday situation or to a newsworthy story. Okay? Yeah. Otherwise, it's really hard. Like, I'm a publicist. What can I comment on? No, it doesn't work. So this is an example here of a TV interview that I did on CBS in San Diego. And again, I'm not going to say that I'm a publicist. This was about a newsy hook around Thanksgiving, because we know that they're going to talk about Thanksgiving because they do every year. But you want to talk about something other than turkey, right? So you want to come from a fresh angle, something that they have not seen before. So in this case, this was like right during the election period, and a lot of people are fighting. They only see their family members once a year during the holidays. Imagine if you put them together and they start fighting about their different opposing political views. That's not good. So that was the pitch. That was, how can we have joyful dinner table conversations around the holidays, around Thanksgiving, given this whole political climate. And it was like really, really spelled out of what the problem is and how can we fix that, and here are the talking points. So you would look at, what can I do today that is newsworthy, that has a timely hook or a celebrity hook or a local hook, and then apply my expertise and tie it into that in a loose way, okay? Or here's another example. This I mentioned a little bit earlier with Trump, having his tweets that were not factually accurate. So that was an interview that was pitched based on how can we use social media effectively as leaders. It wasn't about bashing him and talking about what he did, but it was pulling real life examples of what he did and what the actual facts were and how can we do better. So you always want to make sure that your interviews are uplifting, they're inspiring, they're positive, because if you just try to do the controversial stuff, it will burn out really, really quickly, okay? Here's another example that we did. This is for my client, Cassie Howard, and we got her booked on the Money, which is a national TV show in Canada. And she is a business coach, and she is all about the hustle, what we talked about earlier, right? How you want to position yourself. She's almost like a Gary Vee in that she works all the time. And in fact, she launched a coaching program called the 5 a.m. Hustle Club, because she's really wanting to get everybody up early. Now, get up early is not something that is really newsworthy. It's like, well, it's just kind of what we have to do, right? But I found an article in Business Insider that was all about getting up early and what are the benefits of that and how it impacts your productivity, how it impacts your health, your performance, all of that stuff. And so now using that, legitimizing the story through having another mainstream publication that actually covered that story, it connected us. It connected her expertise into what we could say that, look, this other publication is talking about it, you should consider it. And in fact, it was so much so that they actually talked about her thing, but how do you get people to get up early? Why should they really do it? They talked about her coaching program, which is very unusual on mainstream media, but they really, really wanted to know it because there was a strong hook to something that they perceived as newsworthy. Make sense? Is it getting any wheels turning for your stuff? Awesome. Good. And then this is another one. This is something that we did for Carissa, actually, in NBC in Orlando. So here, we went to speak at an event. Carissa and I both were speaking at this event called PodFest, which is a podcasters conference. And the conference is in its third year. It used to be in Tampa, Florida, and then they moved to Orlando. This was the first time that they did it in Orlando. So that was our lead in that it's coming to Orlando. It's a local conference, bringing business to the local community, 500 people plus all their families. You can imagine the implications. But those guys, they don't know what even a podcast is. So we have to then have somebody from the conference who can actually educate the public on that. Like, what is this new media piece that is interesting? So interesting, in fact, that 500 people will come. Okay, and then Carissa was there. Carissa doesn't have a podcast, but she was one of the speakers, and she has an expertise around YouTube videos. And so we made the pitch a little bit even broader than just podcast, and talked about how can you use new media, like, for example, podcasts and YouTube shows to build a following and to actually make money with it, either side money, which is what most of the mainstream media people would really understand, like work from home kind of thing to get a little bit of extra money, or even build a business around it. And you have this whole long pitch, and you think about what could possibly appeal to them, and then you start editing it down to what is the most newsy hook. So you can see that this was going very much step by step. Then what is the newsworthy piece here? There is a conference that's coming to town. Okay, here's this new media thing that they need to know about. Here is the co-organizer of the conference. Here is one of the guest speakers who is an international speaker who in fact came all the way from Australia to speak about this stuff. So you position it as something important by just taking baby steps and building a bridge. Okay?